copy, you're on the ground.
In a series of 5 videos, we'll talk with 5 men who will shed their light on the 60-year-old icon that is the Speedmaster, aka the Moonwatch.
The copy, you will stop, and we'll take this opportunity to congratulate.
Today we'll talk to Omega's president and CEO, Raynald Aeschlimann.
My name is Raynald Aeschlimann. I'm Omega president and CEO since about 2 years. I've been with the company for more than 21 years, being mostly in sales and retail. I think the Speedmaster represents Omega. It's probably the most important part of its DNA. The DNA of Speedmaster and Omega is probably first aspiring. It's an incredible aspiring collection, aspiring watch, but it also shows the incredible quality and reliability and revolutionary concept of being a watch that was invented exactly 60 years ago and still is one of the most iconic watch of the collection. So Omega is exactly the same. Omega has been well known for more than 120 years for being a very qualitative and reliable watch. That's why Speedmaster is our iconic collection. I think it was very often and quite obvious, as we all know, that the story of having some NASA engineers going to buy some watches was just a rumor. Very clearly, the NASA going forward into a space mission and space exploration wanted to have an instrument which was very clearly defined, and only 4 brands could do this test first, and Omega always been the only one who went out of this test as being the one and only watch. So it was very clear that quality, reliability, if you think about all the tests that the NASA had done, talking about temperature, pressure, talking about also shock resistance, was the reason why they chose our watch. For me, quality is also very clear at Omega. Talking about now the master chronometer certification that we've already done and that we've done on some of the Speedmaster too, it was obvious that what was chosen by the NASA was high qualitative. Also because Omega is the only brand in the watch industry, the name comes from the movement. So it's our own DNA of being high qualitative by being at the same time an industry leader. I think the design, the fact that that watch also through all the 60 years still is exactly looking the same. We had a lot of versions, but still the Speedmaster is not only iconic because of its history, but it's also because of the design and the revolutionary one that was 60 years ago done. 1957, when our engineers put the tachymeter first of all outside of the dial. That was a revolution. That was not something that was very, very easy to do. Now if you go into in the history of that watch, there's not one watch in the history of humankind that had played so much of a role. I remember about having these watches on the wrist of all the astronauts going around, being on the moon, or still now going into the sky. So that's why Speedmaster is so iconic. Product, as such, and history. And there's nobody else in the watch industry that can say that. To add also something, if you think about the Dark Side of the Moon that we just launched, I think it was very clear that Dark Side of the Moon being another revolutionary product, because the first ever ceramic watch being sold in the market had to be a Speedmaster. And that's why also the success was so important on that watch, because it was a Speedmaster that brought this technology into the market. This Speedmaster always been and will always be the collection that makes the big difference with all our competitors. Personal story of Speedmaster is obviously more linked to the visit of this company. When I first started at Omega, the whole afternoon I spent at the museum, and I have to admit that I was very much attracted by this history of the moon. I remember the old museum that had the astronauts, and we were very few people being so interested, and I finally was the only one to stay there, and I got into the history. I was interested in the watch that was presented there in its history, but also in the fact that that chronograph was something that was reminding me of the whole watch industry. So that I could very much feel about the historical part, which was amazing, but also the design that was attracting me. So that's why that watch became always my favorite one. And I can continue very long about this history. Also at that time we were with Michael Schumacher launching a new watch that also made that Speedmaster continue in its own way, because not long before I started there was some decision about maybe forgetting about that watch. And I think that very clearly the Speedmaster Moonwatch at that time, plus the starting point of having the Michael Schumacher watch, made Speedmaster continuing to survive before it literally just exploded into what it is today, talking about the Snoopy, which is one of the most iconic limited edition of Speedmaster, that was the first ever Omega watch I bought myself, and going to Speedy Tuesday, which I'm very proud of, because Speedy Tuesday is exactly about celebrating Speedmaster, this product and this whole history. And the success we had was also because it was a true product to the history of Speedmaster as such, as a product that made history into the design, and over 60 years, which is not the case of many watches in the industry. I think it's first about the passion and the respect. I always been a big passionate about Omega brand for such, but also about the respect about all what has been done before and what should be done for the future. I see my position of being at the service of a brand that gave to me and to the whole watch community so much. And I think it's like what we very well known about the Snoopy. Failure is not an option with Speedmaster. Everything we do when we celebrate Speedmaster has to be perfect. I'm very proud of having so many followers, so many people in that community that have, being able to buy Speedy Tuesday, for instance, or the 10,000 people that are on the waiting list. And I'm very proud of the team, because what we've done so far is a fantastic evolution. With the success that we're seeing into the sales is also a very big success from the consumers. All the people that are totally fan of this watch and all the collectors. And we're going to work very much more on that if you think about the years coming, and especially 2019, which is a very important year for the Moonwatch.
That's 1 406.